Hit
Good
the
to see you
recording.
all.
There we go.
Yeah. So we'll be recording. So we'll be doing that in just a little bit.
Yep, it's already on, I think, if I did it correctly.
Oh, we're already
Yes,
recording. Then maybe
you're
I should
good.
start. All right.
Yes, sounds like a
Okay.
plan.
Well, I'm glad to see everybody here tonight. I am really excited to talk to an author. Um, and also I'm very excited about this film that we watched. It's great to see you. The first thing we want to do, of course, is always thank Capital Federal. And next time you go to the bank, schmooze a little bit and tell them how grateful you are that they are underwriting this series of retroactive events, which is pretty amazing because a lot of people have told me that they love retroactive. So thanks to Capital Federal, and also thank you to Sharon and David Katzman, who have a fund that also helps support us. We're grateful to them because it's always nice to be underwritten by somebody. I learned that when I was a teenager. But it's really true. We're really grateful for that. And then the next thing we always do is tell each other, since it's dessert in a movie, tell each other what you have for dessert. So I do not have it in my hot little hand, but I have over there on my kitchen counter a cookie that is a family favorite. It's called a buffalo chip cookie.
Yep.
And they're ginormous and they've got coconut, all kinds of stuff in them. And they kind of, when they bake, they turn into the kind of this pool looking thing that would look at home on a grass,
Mm.
but it
It's
tastes really
delicious.
good. So that's what I can't wait to eat. How about anybody else? You want to tell us what you've got for dessert? How about you, Mr. Morgan? What are you having for dessert tonight?
I had a store cookie.
But it was delicious.
Okay.
It was delicious.
It was
I
high,
shared it with some crazy lady who was on this thing.
Okay, great.
some Hy-Vee like brownie cookie. It was pretty good.
Yeah, very
It
good.
just
Yeah,
randomly showed up.
one of Kathleen's colossal cookies,
Yeah,
right?
there we go.
Okay, sounds great. How about anybody else? Dessert for Karen, almond cookies from historical village in the Czech Republic. Good
Oh,
grief.
wow. That
Wow.
sounds great.
Is that the results of a recent visit or trip? How lovely. I guess we'll hear later.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Very
Almond
cool.
cookies. I love them. Anybody else
Yes.
want to? Yes.
I actually haven't had dinner yet, so
Okay.
You're just
dessert is
holding out.
coming after.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Anybody else want to talk about their dessert that they've had?
Mm.
No? Yes,
I had a
Joe?
piece of caramel, a really good saltwater caramel.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah,
You get just a little something at the end of a
just a
meal.
little something sweet.
Just a little sweet is always a good idea. Okay, well, then I think the next delicious thing we need to talk about is this movie. And I want to ask you all, what'd you think? How'd you like it? What did you think of the story, the film, the whole thing? Anybody want to pipe up? Don't be shy, as my teachers always said.
Well, I thought it was beautifully shot. Obviously it's very Downton Abbey-like,
Yes,
in terms
yes,
of the quality of the direction and the film,
right.
or, the cinematography. It
Yeah,
was,
the costuming,
yeah, it was really
very,
lovely.
very well done. My
Mhm.
father-in-law used to do television commercials and he also used to talk about production values. I think that's what those are,
Mhm.
that they were really top notch, really, really well done. And the acting was really good. I guess we have to, anybody else want to say something about the film? How did you feel about it?
Well, just filling in with that part, the little things like, so I had watched the film many years ago when
Uh-huh.
I'd read the book and then watched the film. Then I rewatched it today and I really enjoyed it even more today. But you were talking about the production of it, costuming, the little detail of Norma at the end when she goes to pick her up. She has a lighter hat on and a light colored top, and she looks so much more at ease and springy than
Right,
she had in her tighter uh, costumes all the way, that it really stood out to me. It's like,
Mm.
oh, they're signaling it visually as well
right,
as in the script. So
right.
just to
And
fill it.
I didn't, I thought too, Elizabeth McGovern really got that. I'm Norma from Wichita. She really kind
Oh,
of
I'm
late.
sorry, but her accent drove me nuts.
Yeah.
It's like she made herself sound Southern. Sorry, Clifton, you
Well,
could probably chime in on this, but it was
yeah.
like Wichita is not, there's Kansas, but there's not the full anyway. So her accent sort of drove me nuts, and I tried to just ignore that. I loved
Okay.
the movie, loved the book, loved the movie, but yeah, the
Yeah.
accent was just off for Kansas, I
Yeah.
thought, but I'm not a dialect.
Well, I have to say that my daughter lives in a suburb of New York, and everywhere we go when I'm there, which is often because I have two grandchildren there, um, I have to explain where Kansas is because they always ask me, "Is that Kansas City?"
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
No, Kansas is a state. And in the book and the movie, no one ever asks
Mm.
that.
That's true.
I mean, it's not brought up, and I was proud that it wasn't because I thought, well, maybe in the 20s people knew where Kansas was, I guess. But it's law. My daughter also went to North Carolina or South Carolina to college, and I mean, it would just, you said Kansas and it just was like deer in the headlights to those people. Yeah, we're from Kansas, and I thought, did we not get geography in North Carolina? But
No?
that's in South Carolina, but that's another, just totally another story. But it's kind of funny because I just noticed that where I go. I also visit Chicago quite often because I have appointments there, and I have to explain that I'm from Lawrence, Kansas, and it's 45 miles from Kansas City, to a lot of the Uber drivers because they're
Oh, yeah.
like, they don't know. They know it's in the middle of the country, but they just don't know where it is. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so
maybe we should do a show of hands. How many of you have ever gotten the ruby slippers, the Toto, or the over the rainbow?
Yeah.
That's
I have not.
oh wow. Say hello to Toto for me. I mean, I always get that. But anyway, I guess since our hands are at least moving, we usually give a hand signal like, how'd you like the movie? And it's not, it's along the lines of Siskel and Ebert, which is thumbs up and down, but we actually give it a number. So, a 5, is like, wow, I love that. Or, whatever. So just give us a show here. How'd you like the film? Did you enjoy it? What would you rate it?
I
Yeah.
would give it a
I'll give it a
5.
4.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Laura's at a 3.5.
Well, spoken, spoken, spoken like the
So a
author.
4?
I really want to
Okay.
pick your brain about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Give a half a thumb and a 4.
Yeah.
4.5.
There
Okay.
you go.
Yeah, 4.5.
That was fun.
Yeah, well, I thought it was wonderful. I was working at Signs of Life bookstore of all things back in the year that the book came out, and we did get a copy of the book. I don't think you came there, Laura, to talk about it. I mean, actually, that was the only bookstore in Lawrence, Kansas that nobody ever heard of.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, when I was working there, they'd come in and say, I didn't know this place existed, but we did actually have books. And I remember the book came out and I never did read it, but I did see the film. So I'm going to ask you to unmute so we can start getting you talking to us because you're a lot more interesting than I am.
I'm
And you're
sorry,
our expert.
you did not read the book?
I did not read the book.
I'm sorry, the book was
Yeah,
fantastic.
the book
I
was really
know,
good.
I know.
Love
And
the book. Yeah, no.
we're gonna have
Oh
to.
my gosh, you need to add that to your library reading list. The
Yeah,
book
it's
Yes.
very good.
Well, that I can't think every film I've ever seen if I've read the book first. I can't ever remember saying the film was better than the book. So maybe we need to ask Laura to weigh in there. Looks like she might be frozen for a minute, but
Yeah.
how there
Yes.
you are.
She's
There I
back.
am.
So
Yeah.
welcome. Welcome.
Hi. Hi. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Hi. Well, thanks for having me. I
Oh
appreciate it.
gosh. Oh, we
Let's
appreciate
see.
it.
Yeah,
I don't
so
know where to begin. I mean,
yeah.
I think the first thing I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. You're currently a professor of creative writing at KU.
Yep.
Are there a lot of good up and coming creative writers coming right up?
Yes, I think there are. I'm pretty excited about one of my doctoral students right now, and another doctoral student who recently graduated has a book coming out
Oh.
that is going to be amazing. Amy, you probably remember Kim Kankowitz. Do you remember? Oh, nonfiction writer, and she's going to have a great book coming out called Bellwether, and it's a nonfiction book, but it's narrative, and it's about a woman who took on Ma Bell in
Yeah.
the 40s and 50s. It's really something. So I'm
Sounds
excited for
great.
that to come out. Yeah.
Well, that sounds interesting because obviously that graduate student has done some research. And one of the first things I want to do is, how did you ever latch on to this story? How did you, where did it come from? And how did you do your research? I mean, I know Louise Brooks was a real person, and my understanding is that she did go to New York with a chaperone, but nobody knows a thing about her. I mean,
Yeah.
how did you come up with this story?
Well, I knew who she was, but I didn't know she was from Kansas. And I think I had a sabbatical coming up, or a research intensive semester coming up. So I knew the time off was coming, and I didn't have an idea for my next book. So I was really panicked, because it's very panicky to have time and to not use it wisely, because who knows when you'll get more time.
Yes.
And I remember I drifted into Borders, when Borders was downtown, and I was looking at a wall of books about history, and they were almost all about men, but there was one book called Flapper by Joshua Zeist, and it had a chapter on, every chapter was for a different flapper. So there was, Clara Bow and Zola Fitzgerald, and then there was one on Louise Brooks, and I just started sort of thumbing through it right there in the store, and it said that she was from Kansas, and I kept reading, and
Yeah.
what it said about her was that she was sort of the real deal when it came to flappers. Like, a lot of them pretended to be rule breakers and rebel, but they really weren't. But she really was, and they also said, she was super intelligent, read a ton. She was an alcoholic. She was outspoken. She could be self-defeating. She could be mean. And when she was 15 years old, she got into the Denishon School of Dance in the summer of 1922. And she went there with a chaperone, a Wichita housewife who was 36 years old. And
Okay.
the chaperone's real name is Alice Mills. And there's not much known about her, because all that is left about this woman, Alice Mills, was in Louise Brooks's memoir that she wrote much, much later. And all she said was, "I tolerated Miss Mills' provincialism because we shared a love of theater."
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it, which is totally on brand, right? Like,
Right.
it's so condescending. But then you imagine, like, this 36-year-old woman, like, what a nightmare to go to New York for the first time in your life. And New York at the time wasn't like a tourist destination. It was really almost, it was, this was during very the Wall Street bombings had just happened. You would think of like tenement housing, and she's going there with this young, gorgeous, super talented, super smart young woman who just has little respect for anyone except for herself and great artists. And she's a snob, and you're going along for the ride, and you're supposed to chaperone her. And I thought, oh, what a nightmare. And then I thought, oh, it'd be really funny to tell the story from her
Yeah.
perspective.
Mhm.
I
Right.
mean, I knew I didn't want Louise to be my heroine. And a lot of people just sort of assume, when you get sort of a larger than life, really interesting, exciting character like that, um, that kind of person is so I, I I couldn't connect with her qualities, even though I was intrigued by her. She wasn't the heroine of my story, because, she was deeply wounded, it turns out, from experiences in her childhood. I'm speaking of Louise.
Yes.
And she never truly got over them. And I would say by the end of her life, she really wouldn't let people love her, Whereas think my heroine really does. And so
Yes.
she is the heroine of the book, even though
Yeah.
she's sort of the plain Midwestern one. But to
Right.
me, she is the true heroine. And so I just set out to write that summer from this other person's point of view, but I changed her name so I could do whatever I wanted with her. And then
Yeah.
I stuck to the facts of Louise's story.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating to hear your process on that, how you kind of thought your way through, because it really was interesting. I know I didn't read the book, so people who've
Oh, it's
done
okay.
so, please weigh in. But in the film, Louise was fascinating and interesting, but it was the change in the main character, uh, Norma, you know, that was really the story. And I particularly love the end when she's walking along with, I think it was, I, I
Joseph.
don't know, it might have been the very end or somewhere in there when she was figuring out that in a perfect world that they should shout their love from the rooftops. But it's not a perfect world, and it will never, it's going to be a long time till it is, and I'm alive now and I don't want to wait.
Yeah.
And I loved that. If I could cross stitch all of that, I would do that and hang it up here in my kitchen because that's so true. And I thought it was wonderful how she changed from talking about men like wrapped candy
Oh,
Yeah.
to
everybody
to
evolved.
to never putting on her corset again. I thought it was a
Mhm.
wonderful story. I really did.
You know how you look up afterwards, like what's true and what's not,
Yeah.
and I don't know, this is on the internet, so God knows if it was true, but supposedly the chaperone had a huge crush on the male instructor, according to
Hmm.
some site that I read
Huh.
last night. I'm like, that did not come through in the movie, but
No.
I wonder about that. I'm suspicious, I will say,
I'll
because
find it and send it to you.
okay, yeah, I'm
You
suspicious.
can check my sources.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was quite striking, but
Yeah, he
maybe,
was.
but I just don't know how they would know that. I don't know. We'll
I know.
see.
Yeah. Well, but she was a wonderful character, and even at the end, she could not only have at her table her beloved friend, German guy, and the daughter, but the husband and his lover.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
loved all of it. I
Okay.
thought, yes, let's just be, here, you know. I just thought that was very, very dear. I thought it was really very nicely done. So,
Well,
how was the process? Did this book flow out of you? Did you have to grind it out? How did it kind of come together?
Uh, I mean, I worked really hard at it. I was pretty driven because I only had a summer and a semester, to do all the
Yeah.
research and all the writing. So I was pretty obsessed. But I will say it came out more quickly than some of my novels have given me a much harder time than this one. This one did, I wouldn't say it just wrote itself. Like I just sat down and, oh, I really had to sit and work at it and really worked intensely and thinking things through and really trying to match up the dates of things that happened with Louise and then still making my imagined character's arc engaging and interesting. And so that was a little bit challenging. But it didn't give me a lot of trouble. Like I did manage to finish in time, because it is hard for me to write while I'm teaching. It just does.
I can't
It's just so
imagine.
hard.
Yeah.
So I really was motivated to get it done in that time period.
Yes, and yeah, and also weaving in the orphan train.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was interesting.
Where did that come from?
The Lawrence Public Library.
Yeah,
Yay!
Yes. So
that's the one
I
thing
would,
I really remember from your book talk. It's like, yay.
yeah, because I think years before I started writing this book, I'd go into the library all the time and that you all had a display up about it.
Mhm.
And I didn't know about it. And I started looking into it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is fascinating. And I just read about it. And then that made me, check out some videos on it and learn about it and read about it. And I just sort of put it back here and didn't think about it, like it was just information I had until I figured out how it could intersect with this book. Like, oh, why would she want to go to New York? Like, that was my big thing. I was like,
Yeah.
I started out thinking, okay, does she have like a lost love who's in New York? Does she have, what is it? What's in New York that would make her go? Because I couldn't think of why she would go, I didn't want her to be adventurous and devil may care or brave like Louise. And so I really needed to come up with a reason for her to go. And then the
Right.
orphan train, I was like,
Yeah, that was brilliant because you were
oh,
kind of pushing that idea along as the story was unfolding. So, if anybody else has a question, please put it in the chat box or ask. But I've got to ask, what's it like to give your child your book to someone else to make a screenplay? I mean, what's that feel like?
mhm.
What's that process? How did that all come together? I think that'd
Happen.
be really interesting and difficult, but what?
Yeah. It's a great question. It's exciting, right? Because I've had previous books optioned. So if
Mhm.
someone options it, that means they rent the rights until they can get the money together to actually
Right.
purchase it. And so it's like they're interested enough because they don't get the money back. And so that's happened a few times, but it's really, really hard to get money together, especially for a female lead film, especially for historical, because it's more expensive. And
Right.
so, it was like, well, maybe. And even with, Elizabeth McGovern was the driving force behind it. And even with all her pull, it kept kind of faltering, and then it went ahead, okay, it's happening. And then the price kind of kept falling. Like at first it was a really nice price. And then
Uh-huh.
they just kind of kept bumping into problems and saying, oh, would this amount be okay? Would this amount be okay? Would this amount be okay? And, I just kept saying yes because I wanted it to happen. And
And
I
keep it
believed
alive. Yeah.
and keep it alive. And I believe the sincerity, but basically at the end, I made just enough to pay for my new roof that I found out I needed that year. So, you know, money comes in, money comes out. But
Sure
I
does.
will say it was so thrilling to go into a theater with other people and have us all watch this movie with lines that I had written on my living room couch.
Uh-huh.
And, and I've watched Elizabeth McGovern since I was really young and always thought she was so talented. And, I just couldn't believe, like, to sit in it was like such a moment. And I got to do it, here in Lawrence, in Kansas City, and at the premiere in New York. And it was just, a total pinch me moment. It's amazing. It's a wonderful
Oh,
experience. Yeah.
imagine it'd be
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah.
So that was the real payment.
So, and Julian Fellows, Mr. Downton Abbey, Mr.
Yeah.
You name it, isn't he writing The Gilded Age these days? Maybe I'm
I
wrong
think,
about that. I
I
mean,
think
yeah, well, we won't talk too much about those shows, but I mean, did you just hand it all over and they gave it to him, or did you have any
Yeah.
part in it? Did you get to say that would never happen? She would never do that, or
No, because I would have said that at one point. Like, I did not, I sold it the way you sold a house. You sell a
okay.
house. Like, you don't get to tell them, okay, I don't want those curtains. I don't want that act,
Right.
it's theirs.
Leave the
Um,
floor. Yeah, you can't say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't do it. You sell it and they want it. And a lot of times I found out they'll insist on that because they don't want the author coming in. And in this case, they just were really firm, although they didn't change very much. Like it's pretty much the story,
Yeah.
Good.
One thing I would not have done, I
Yes,
was
I'd like
so
to know what
impressed.
that
Okay.
was.
Well, first, I just want to say that I was knocked out by all the things that they did, like that they improved on, because I researched a lot of the dance. I went to the dance and theater music library at KU. I watched all these videos of the Dennis Shawn Dance School, but I'm not a dancer. I don't have that background, but I really learned a lot to try to write it. But to see the dances, and to see the choreography and the costuming and the sets, I just thought they did a marvelous job. And I thought the Haley Lou Richardson, who played Louise, was just perfect. I thought she was
She was
so
good.
good. She just became her. So they
Yeah.
did a lot of things really well. The music was great. I hated the last line. I was so happy watching the movie, and then Cora is saying goodbye to Louise, right? And then she says, "Hey, Cora, did you ever did you ever throw away that
Yeah,
the
corset.
corset?"
Yeah.
And I just thought, okay, like Louise never would have asked that. Like she never would have cared that much. She would not have been as interested enough in Cora's arc. She was really narcissistic and wounded.
Yeah.
She never would have asked that. And also I just felt like it was a little too like
Heavy-handed?
yeah, and symbolic, like, oh, the corset is symbolic here. And
Yeah.
she just wouldn't have asked her that then. And if I would have, that's the one thing that I would have like really raised a fuss over. I was like, that is not the last line in the movie. That is not anything Louise would have asked. And that's not the note you want to end on. I think I would have said that.
No,
But I
yeah.
was so impressed with most all the other choices they made. I thought were wonderful.
Yeah, I guess you kind of felt like, really, I don't, boys and girls, here's what the movie's about right here, you know,
Yeah,
in case
yeah.
you're too stupid. Yeah,
Right.
kind of
And,
like
and
that,
it was, yeah. And it was out of character and it was just a little too fat. So that's what I would have done. But, you know,
So tell me a little bit more about, I mean, one of the reasons I'm asking, well, we have a friend, my husband and I have a friend, and he was very talented in high school. He's written some novels. One was optioned. Steppenwolf Theater Company took it. They made a film of it, and I think it showed in 3 screens in the United States. In other words, Alan Alda had big name cast.
oh,
This thing went on, they made a film, but it never got any screens.
yeah.
And I don't know that you have to let go of it at that point too, don't you? Like
Mhm.
I don't know how that works either.
Well, someone here probably knows more than I do, but that is why it's important they try to get a distributor. Like that's
Yeah.
the big thing for them. And so a lot of really good films don't get distributed. And I don't really know the business that well, but I do know that that happens to a lot of really good films. And so in this case, they did have a distributor, you know, and it was
Yeah.
Masterpiece Theater was behind
Right.
it. And so it had a lot, you know, and I think a lot of that was Julian Fellows and Elizabeth McGovern making that happen. And I have read, you know, like if you want to get your book, you know, out there in the film world, you have to make like somebody powerful love it or see themselves in it, like a really high-powered actor who's like, I can play this role, you know, I want to do this. And I don't know that there are so many roles for women who aren't 20, you know, and so maybe
Right.
that's what she responded to or something, but she really wanted to make this happen and she got behind it. So she was the force that just like would not give up on it. And then her husband directed it, Simon Curtis.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I could tell she was really,
Mhm.
really loved everybody was so good.
I thought she was great. I thought she
Yes,
was a
she
great
was.
Cora.
She was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good.
Did you
Yeah.
get to meet her?
I did at the premiere. I got to go to the New York premiere. I went with my husband Ben, and we had such a blast. Like it was hilarious because, you know, we're at, you know, it was in the Rainbow Room was the reception. We got to be on the red carpet with like all those stars who were in it, and Blythe Danner was there. And you know,
Yeah.
Blythe Danner, oh my God, you know, and I get to briefly talk to her. I get to talk to, you know, they were all very nice to me. I sat behind Haley Lou Richardson, and you know, I had Ben on one side, my agent on the other, and it was really, really fun and lovely. Julian Fellows was there. We all went out for drinks afterwards. It was hilarious.
Great.
The only bad part that happened is I talked myself into getting like, oh, I'm gonna get like a fancy blowout, you know, right before. Like I'd never done that before, but I was like, you know, I can go get my hair done professionally. And
Yes.
boy, she gave me a Camilla Parker Bowles. That's the only way to put it. And that's what I got when I went, you know, that'll learn me. And I didn't have time to change it. And Ben was like, you look great, let's go. I didn't.
Cheer up, honey. Maybe it'll rain.
No
That's
joke.
right.
And it did not, man.
Darn it. Huh.
Yeah, that's what I get, you know.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
had a great time. It was so much fun.
I bet it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. And the premiere here was actually like more exciting. Like that night was like crazy fun because it was like so many people I love and know came to Liberty Hall to watch it. And, you know, it just felt like this warm hug from the town that I love so much and so many people that I love here and care about. And I felt just delighted that this had happened. That was even better than the New York one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said they really didn't change the story very much. That was one question I wanted to ask you. Did
Yeah.
they change
Yeah.
much of it? It was pretty much survived intact.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of, I'm trying to remember any little change, but there was nothing big, and the sequence kind of follows things. I mean, the dialogue is a lot of it's word for word dialogue, so it didn't really change anything.
Good. And,
Yeah.
and so what is Julian Fellows really like?
He was very, very nice. He was there with his wife, and um he was just nice. I'll tell you the funny thing. So
Yeah, there's
is
only go ahead.
okay, so we're at this sort of, like quiet bar afterwards, and it's just a few of us. It's the woman who played Louise's mother. She's very famous, and her name is escaping me right now. But people
Me
like
too.
her could. She has the dark hair. She played Myra Brooks, and the Julian
Right.
Fellows and his wife, and then Elizabeth McGovern and her husband. And then they were getting up to leave, like Elizabeth McGovern and her husband, and she's just wearing this designer dress, and they stand up and they're so glamorous, and they turn and they look at the husband, the director, looks at me and Ben, who are like, we're visiting from Kansas, and they're like, do you ever get over to England? Do you ever get over there? And because that's where they live. And we
Yes.
were like, no, no, and they said, well, if you ever are, you should stop by sometime. And we were like, and then they turn around, and then he turns and looks back over his shoulder at us, and he goes, do. We're like, all right,
Perfect.
so this is now a running joke between me and Ben. It's like, do stop by sometime. Do, like, where are we gonna find them? Like, how are we gonna get there? I don't know. He seemed sincere, like he really turned around and meant it, but
I think you ought to take them up on it.
I don't know how I would. Like, do you
Show
call him the
up.
phone book? Do I start emailing him or pounding on the gates? Let us in.
It
I
would
don't
be
know, but
rather awkward. I can't imagine knocking on their, hey,
I
we're from
know.
Kansas.
Hey, remember us? But they were
Remember me?
very,
You said to come
very
on
nice.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. They were really nice. It was super fun. They put us up in the library hotel. We had a great time.
Oh, how
Yeah,
nice.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. I mean, this is interesting though. I have a student who found great success with a novel that she wrote, and she decided, a movie company came calling, and she decided not to sell because they wouldn't put her on the credits. They wouldn't put her on the credits, so she wouldn't have any say. And they really wanted her novel, and she dug in, and so they walked away, and she hasn't gotten another offer like that. And if I get the chance again, I'm not sure, to be honest, what I'll do, because it is wonderful to see your work turned into a movie, but it also seems like you should have a little say. Like, I'm not quite clear on why they're so resistant to that sometimes. Like, obviously they wouldn't want somebody who's gonna raise a fuss or be difficult, and it's a whole different business than what we're used to. There's
Yes.
more money, there's more decisions, there's more people involved. It's nothing like me just sitting in the room writing. It's much more team oriented. But I'm not sure what I would do next time, because I would like to have a little say, and plus I would like to be part of the team just so I could learn, like, I wouldn't think I was the one who knew everything, but I would just like to see how it's done and see how they make decisions,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure what I would do.
And so you're saying that this particular student, she held out because she wanted to be in the team and,
Hmm.
more than just written by, original book or novel by.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she wanted to be in the room where it happens.
Yeah, and then you also get a screen credit, and then it's
Yeah.
easier to, like, get in next time. But they really stuck to their guns, and it was high stakes negotiation, and I'm
Uh-huh.
not sure, she might have made the right decision for her, but that's what she did.
And is that where an agent comes in? How does an
Well,
agent work for
it's
writing?
ultimately your decision and their decision. You know what I mean? An agent can, and this is all done through agents, like you're never actually talking to them on the phone, but
Right.
you know, ultimately you can say no and they can say no as well. And in that case, they both said no. You know, they walked away,
I
both
think I
parties.
know her. I
Yeah.
think I know her. She's also from Kansas.
No,
Oh,
Mm-mm.
that author. Okay. That's a
Yeah.
different person then.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a different person that was in creative writing at KU that wrote a novel. But
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if hers has been made into a movie or was an offer came. She didn't mention it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just okay. Oh, good.
Yeah, and so just because I love books and always thought and everybody tells me I'm a great writer. And alas and alack,
That's
my
awesome.
grandmother wrote down her incredibly difficult childhood.
Oh,
And that was given to me when I was 21 years old, and I was told to write it because she never got around to it. So
oh,
that's kind of sitting back there. But I wasn't sure I could handle. But what I'm wondering is this process of writing, and then you submit it to a
well,
publishing
I can,
house. I mean, how does that
yeah.
work anymore? I mean, I've seen a lot of books that people self-publish,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this was that. Can you talk to us about that a little bit? All of us writers who are listening to you right now.
Well, good for you. And I'm glad to hear you do right. I so I have an agent. So if you've never written a book before, your first task is to finish the novel and then you have to get an agent. And
Okay.
that is a huge hurdle to get past. It's hard, you know. It is. It's really, really hard because they get so many submissions. And if you get one, it's great because that means somebody is willing to take you on. It doesn't cost you any money, but they make 15% of whatever you make. And so I got an agent a long time ago with my first book, The Center of Everything, and she did great for me. Yeah, she really helped me through a lot of books. And then she kind of retired out and sent me to a new agent, and I really like this new agent a lot. So at least I don't have to go looking for an agent right now, which I'm so grateful for because that is just such a hard process and something I try to help my students through, but even writer friends I have who are really good, it's hard to find one. And then the agent sends it out to publishers. And I don't think any reputable publisher would look at your work if you send it to them directly. They know that they need to send it through an agent so you don't get ripped off.
Right.
Yeah.
And I recalled too that when I was working at the good old sweet bookstore that no one knew existed, Signs of Life.
I knew.
I
Yeah,
used to
it was a nice
go there.
bookstore, a very sweet space.
Yeah.
I was told that, a million well, there's a couple of things like it sold a million copies. And I believe there maybe the owner, Clay Belcher, told me, well, really for a million copies and we're selling it for 27.95 or whatever we were selling it for hardback. The author makes about $1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
You
I
don't.
think is kind of a surprise if you hadn't heard that. So that is true.
Yeah, and it's even less for Kindle. I mean, what I heard it used to be is $3 for a hardback, dollar for paperback, and
Hmm.
even less for a Kindle. Yeah, and then there's audiobook, you know. But yeah, it's not a ton. You know what I mean? But
Right.
when it really sells, and this book was my big seller for sure.
Yeah.
That it's great. I mean, because you write it because you love it, and then to get
Yeah.
paid for it on top of that, it's just like, oh, that's amazing, you know. So I can't complain. And I will say, they make it possible to get it out there. Like they do
Yeah.
spend a lot of money on the marketing and the risk and the book tour and
I was
all of
going to
this.
ask if did you go on a book tour
Yeah.
with this book?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they toured me like bananas for both the hardback and the paperback. And I don't know that they're really doing that so much anymore because of the pandemic. I think was a lesson to publishers that they can now do things like this and just have the author come in and visit book clubs one-on-one. And so saves them a lot of money because book tours are really expensive.
I bet.
Um, And so, you know, they do tour authors. Like I just went to a reading the other night at the Plaza with Ann Napolitano. But she drove herself over from St. Louis. Like I think they're cutting back quite a bit because they realize they can do Zoom and get more, you know, publicity for their buck. But I did get to go on some wonderful tours, and it can be exhausting, and it's also really fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
did you always think you would be a writer?
No, I was a social work major.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I was pre-med for a while, you know, I really wanted to do something practical and helpful. But then I started writing when I was a social worker. I graduated and I was working as a social worker, and I started writing, and then I never had enough time to really work on something and get better. And I took a few night classes at KU with Carolyn Doty, who was teaching creative writing at the time. And then I applied for this fellowship in New Hampshire. It's called the George Bennett Fellowship for Creative Writing. And they pick one unpublished writer every year. And you get to just go there and work for a year. And you don't have to do anything but work on your book. And sometimes they pick a poet and sometimes they pick a fiction writer. But the only qualification is you can't have a book length publication out, which I did not. So I applied and I got like, you know, runner up. And that really encouraged me and made me think
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, maybe I can do this. So then I really did apply at KU. And fortunately I got in, and I think someone here had something to do with that. Amy
Who would that
Devitt.
be?
Amy Devitt, yeah, because you had to let me teach, you know what I mean? So I could afford it, right? Like I was teaching undergraduates and learned a lot about teaching from Amy Devitt, and got to take all these classes and meet these other writers, and I got better. And then I applied again at the end of 3 years. I applied again for that fellowship and I got it. And then I had what would become the center of everything, but it was not ready to send to an agent. So I spent a whole year in New Hampshire just revising it. And then at the end of the year, I sent it to an agent, and then it sold. And was that the question? Oh, anyway, I didn't
Yeah.
think I would be a writer. I thought I just started to gravitate toward it, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like,
Well, I gotta say, I think, you know, it's good to be a social worker and get people a
Mm.
place to live, and it's good to be a doctor and give them a pill, but if you tell them a story,
Oh,
I think that's
nice.
much, much more powerful than all of
Oh,
the above. So I think you found the thing to do. I think that's
that's
really
nice.
cool because I think stories keep us going.
That's nice. I mean, I do still have like a little bit of wistfulness. You know what I mean? Like when I see someone do something really practical, like I just read Tuberculosis is Everything by John Green.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Great
right?
book.
It just knocked me out, and it makes you think like that's all any of us should be doing, is just trying to find a cure for tuberculosis, you know? And
Yeah.
but storytelling is important and powerful, as he shows with this
Yeah.
book. But
Yes.
yeah, I did just finish another one, and it just got accepted, so there'll be another one coming out next
Oh.
year. Yeah,
Oh, congrats.
yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
So how many books have you written now these days?
This will be, well, I've written. I think I've written 8 or 9. This will be my 6th publication. So
Okay.
they don't all make it, you know. I mean, that's including the one I wrote when I was 18 at the
Right.
computer science building on campus, you know.
What was that one about? What was your first book about?
Well, that was my memoir I wrote when I was 18.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I never sent it anywhere. You know what I mean? But I think I was sort of not a memoir, but it's sort of this, 18-year-old attempt to sort of make sense of things and what was going on with me. And I wish I had it, but it's on like a floppy disk somewhere, like in some guitar that I sold, you know.
Yeah.
I have no idea where it is.
Yeah.
But that one never will see the light. And then I've had a couple that just didn't work out, that I really, really tried to make work. And in the end, they just didn't work. And so, it
Yeah.
is a big risk. It's like, for me at least, I know some writers just like have an idea and they just write it and it's no big deal and they just keep doing it. But for me, it's like I'm usually batting like I don't know, roughly 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4. And it's like you start it with the same hopes and ambition each time. And sometimes it really works, and then sometimes it kind of doesn't, and you have to know when to quit and when to tough it out. And that's it. So if you see me walking around scowling, that's why.
This friend of ours that's written several books, I was asking, well, how do you discipline the hardest, what did some writers say? Like the hardest thing is showing up,
Yeah,
showing up to getting
yeah.
done. And he said, well, he said he tricks himself a little bit. Like he only lets him have this favorite coffee when he's working.
Uh-huh.
Or he said, I also put on this really favorite music, this jazz or whatever it was, he said, and I kind of set myself up, which I only allow myself to have when I'm working. Do you have tricks like that you use, if I may ask, or?
For sure. And I feel kind of terrible admitting it because, I talk to students, but they're young, they're green. And I used to be this way that they're like, oh, I just want time to write and I can just stay up all night. It's all I want to do. And then when it becomes your job, it's a little different, right? Or like when you're in the middle of a novel, I I go to coffee shops, like for some reason I work a little bit better usually in a public setting, even though I don't want a lot of interruptions, right? But if other people are around and kind of working, then I'm less likely to, it's some kind of psychological hack. Like
Yeah.
I'm less likely to distract myself or hop online for a second because I feel like I'm being watched, even though no one is. But I'll just, want to get myself a latte, but that can be expensive and not always the most efficient method. But it did work this last time. That's how I did it.
Good.
And I write sometimes at home, but I think like little treats like that and little and also it's kind of like getting yourself to work out. You know what I mean? It's like once you do it, then you're on it and you're fine. But also when you don't do it, and you know how you kind of have that voice in your head like you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and then it feels
Yeah.
terrible. So you're like, oh, I'll just do it.
I've got
peer
3 or
pressure.
4 people in the back seat in my
Yeah.
head. And they're a Greek chorus, they're just saying, hey, you should be doing the laundry. What's the matter with you? They've always got some kind of comment.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I totally get that. Because it is it's hard work.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Discipline
is.
yourself to it. But anybody have any questions? I don't want to dominate this wonderful opportunity we have.
There's some nice comments in the chat.
Yes, let's hear them.
Amy says that origin story for Norma was brilliant, both the orphan part and the nature of the husband's infidelity. What a great
Yes.
set of events to build such a
That
rich
was,
character.
was.
Yeah, there was a
Thank you.
lot to it. It's
Mhm.
great.
Was
Yeah,
it Norma or Cora? I think I have the name wrong.
They
No,
called her Norma in the film, but
Yeah,
but it
because
was
she's
Cora.
Book, but
Cora.
Cora in the book,
Mhm.
or it
Mhm.
was Cora in
yeah.
the film too.
You know
Well,
why?
it's because she's Cora in Downton Abbey, that
Right.
actress.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, of course.
That just hit me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
I didn't remember that.
yeah.
Yeah. It was just a weird coincidence. So they changed her
Ah,
name to Norma.
Ah.
okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Roxy says, I love the costumes and the attention to women's fashion in that era.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful movie.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You know.
And the
And I
dancing.
like the dancing. I like the lead, the love interest. I thought he was great, who
Yeah.
played
He was
Joseph.
good.
Her husband, Alan, he was great.
Yeah.
I thought maybe a little bit more would have been made of Raymond, but I thought it was pretty well done because, they have to shorten it too, right? Like
Mhm.
they don't
Right.
have as much room as a novel does.
Right.
Yeah, the dancing was great. I just thought it was, I loved what they did with the whole Floyd character, that Louise meets that guy. And I think
Yeah.
he played that right. I thought that they just really,
They really hit it.
yeah, it was neat to see. It was, I remember when I was writing the book, I was like, okay, they go to New York and what happens? Like it just felt like this big abyss. All right. And it's like, okay, you got to start coming up with things for them to do. And there were all these different ideas. And one thing I didn't know from the start is I knew there was going to be some kind of guy she was going to meet, but I didn't know he was going to have a daughter until I got closer, and it was like, oh, what if he has a daughter and that's why he's there? And and then I started thinking about the Germans who were put in POW camps and,
Right.
you know, and all of that. And I came up with his character. So you're sort of like grasping for things as you go
Right.
a
The
little bit.
Spanish flu. Yeah, that would.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the way she was making up the story about who he was. This is my
Yeah,
brother Joseph.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. That was good.
And old Louise is
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, really?" You know.
Yeah. Yeah. She's in on it. And in the book, I'm trying to think, that was one thing that was different because no, I don't remember. But in the book, I don't know that Louise was there for that scene, or Louise just didn't have a whole lot of interest in whatever Cora was doing. You know, Louise was about Louise.
Yes,
Like she just wouldn't have cared, but
yeah.
Mhm.
they warmed her up a little bit.
So, and you were telling us a little bit about Louise. Has she must have lived for a while. I mean, the
Mhm.
little, I always love the little, you know, 20 years later, they were still married. Or, I love all the little
Yeah.
tosses that they give us at the end of film.
Mhm.
But the information about her, plus the actual film snips
Yeah.
was really
She had
good.
she lived into the 80s,
Mm.
and she actually died in is it Buffalo, not Buffalo. It's somewhere in upstate New York. It's where Kodak is. Because, okay, so she dated George Paley for a while. You know, she went through that really, really hard time during World War II. So she was like a big starlet in the 20s and 30s. And then it was mostly because of her alcoholism that she kind of flamed out, and she came back to Wichita broke during World War II. And she did without Cora. Like I had no idea if she and the chaperone, I made that up, but she did eventually find her way back to New York and lived in New York City for a long time. And the someone basically subsidized her living. Was it George Paley? I think it might have been of CBS, and someone involved in Kodak, which is how she ended up living out her days. Oh, Rochester. That's where she
Rochester,
was.
I was wondering.
Yeah, and that's where she's buried. But when she was an old woman, she wrote Lulu in Hollywood, which is her memoir. And that was when everyone realized how brilliant she was as a film critic. And, you know, it was like, you know, Schopenhauer, she loved Schopenhauer because that was her favorite philosopher. But he said, you know, old age, you drop the mask. And I feel like that was so true for her because she was so strikingly beautiful that I don't think her intellect ever like came out. Like people didn't see it, or like they couldn't see it until she became old, and this other beauty, this deeper beauty got to really surface of her intellect. And so that book, like a lot of film people really, really love that memoir and have great respect for it. Um, One thing that's really interesting that I found out later, okay, so when I was doing my reading in Wichita, I was a little nervous because a lot of the Brooks still live there. And Rosie Brooks came to the reading. So this is her niece.
Wow.
Um, and she came, but she was very nice. And she was like, yeah, no, that's what she was like. And she had a memory of being little and answering the phone one time. And Aunt Louise was pretty verbally abusive and drunk. And her dad was like, you know, she's sick. It's not okay for anyone to talk to you like that, but she is not well. And that's kind of what she remembered him. But there's this other beautiful story where this guy, he might still be alive. He was a judge in Wichita. I think his name was Robert Brooks. And when he was little, he was living in that scary old house with Myra and her husband the same year. His parents got divorced. Okay, so this is Martin. I'm sorry. Louise's had an older brother named Martin who she never got along with. And when Martin got divorced in the 40s, which was a big deal back then, they sent their big deal. They sent their 10-year-old son to go live with Myra, Louise's mother and father, Leonard Brooks, in that big old scary house in Wichita. And so you just think right away, oh my God, this poor kid, right? He's
Yeah.
already got like the divorced parents in the 40s, and then he goes lives with those two in what really seems like a haunted house. And then, oh, your drunk Aunt Louise is coming for a visit because she isn't famous anymore. So good luck, kid. But
Yeah.
what actually happened was he was dyslexic, but they didn't call it that then. He felt like he was stupid.
Of
And
course. Yeah.
she couldn't bear it. She was such a reader. And so she sat with him and kind of authoritatively worked with him every day, every day, every day, and taught him how to read despite dyslexia. And he became a judge, and he said he owed it to her. And at the end of her life, she's being interviewed, and someone said, because she had all these, famous affairs, Charlie Chaplin, George Palin, all these, and they said, who was the love of your life? And she said, Robert Brooks, her nephew.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
really a great story.
It's a beautiful, like that would be a movie to watch those two,
Yeah.
So that was neat.
Everything.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, I know I've got to say, and I think people who are here tonight, the book was wonderful, obviously, which I haven't read yet, but the film was very good, and I'm looking forward to. I love seeing it. I watched it twice, just because the first time. Well, actually, I've got to say, I think I watched it the first time. Maybe it wasn't on television in Masterpiece Theater.
Mhm.
That's where I saw it on television the first time, and I thought, oh, that was pretty good. But I'll tell you what, I've just loved it. And when I was a child, I always liked to read biographies. And I like to read autobiographies because I find people's lives much more interesting to see how did it work out for them. So it's wonderful that you took a real person, combined it with another person, and made such a lovely story out of it to inspire us to take off our corsets. But more than that, to go it's never going to be a perfect world, and why wait for it?
Yeah.
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 I want it
That's
now.
nice.
I thought
That's
that was
nice.
really lovely. I'm a bit of an enthusiast, I guess you could probably
That's,
say, but
that's wonderful.
it was
That's
really, really
wonderful.
so good.
Yeah.
I'll say one more thing.
Please.
Because I'd never read Schopenhauer before I started researching this book, but Louise was really, really into Schopenhauer. So I did a crash course and trying to learn him. And one thing he said kind of became my North Star for the book. I printed it out and I had it stuck to my laptop, which is compassion is the only true morality, or the only real morality is compassion. Yeah.
Very beautiful.
And I feel like that is what Cora learns,
That's what I loved. I loved your
Yeah.
table full of all these people that don't fit together but do.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
love
Thank you.
that so much. So I hope we can get a little bit of that in the world.
Yeah.
I do too. I do too.
Okay, well, let's all do our part, boys and girls.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been
Yeah.
really nice. Thanks to
Yes,
everyone
thank you
for
so
coming.
much
Yeah,
for
I
thank
see
you,
being
some
with
Laura.
us.
familiar and loved
Laura, you're
faces out
great.
there. Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody, for being here tonight.